That is the sound of the Sikorsky CH-53. It has been called the Sea Stallion, the Super Stallion, the Pave Low, and now the King Stallion. For over 50 years, this flying building has defied gravity, carried the weight of the U.S. Marine Corps, and served as the absolute backbone of heavy lift operations around the globe. It is the strongest helicopter in the free world. And today, we are going to find out why this machine is a legend. To understand the giant, we have to look at why it was born. The year was 1960. The Vietnam War was escalating, and the U.S. Marine Corps realized a hard truth. Their current helicopters just weren't strong enough. They needed to move heavy artillery, ammo, and, most importantly, they needed to retrieve other downed aircraft. They launched a competition for a new heavy-lift helicopter. It came down to a battle of the Titans, Boeing versus Sikorsky. Boeing offered a version of the Chinook, the famous twin-rotor helicopter used by the Army. But the Marines had very specific needs. They fly from ships. They needed a helicopter that could land on water in an emergency, and crucially, they needed a tail that could fold up so the beast could fit on the elevators of an aircraft carrier. Sikorsky won the contract, and on October 14, 1964, the CH-53A took its first flight. When it arrived in Vietnam in 1967, it changed everything. They called it the Sea Stallion. It could lift 9 tons externally. It was recovering downed aircraft worth millions of dollars. In fact, it was said that the CH-53 fleet paid for itself just by the value of the planes it saved from the jungle floor. But pilots in Vietnam noticed something. In the hot, humid tropical air, the engines struggled. They needed more power. In the world of heavy lift, you always need more power. This desire for power led to the most significant evolution in the helicopter's history. Throughout the 1970s, Sikorsky upgraded the bird, but in 1980, they unleashed the ultimate version, the CH-53E Super Stallion. If you look closely at a Super Stallion, you will see why it is such a beast. The engineers took the original design and added a third engine sitting right behind the main rotor shaft. They added a 7th blade to the main rotor, and they tilted the tail rotor 20 degrees to provide extra lift. The result was pure insanity. The CH-53E has a maximum takeoff weight of 73,500 pounds. To put that into perspective, that is heavier than a World War II B-17 bomber. And this thing can hover. It is powerful enough to lift a howitzer, a light armored vehicle, or even another helicopter, and fly it back to a ship. There is a famous saying in the Marine Corps: if it is too heavy for a CH-53, you don't need to move it, you need to build a base around it. But raw strength isn't the only trick up its sleeve. The CH-53 is one of the few helicopters in the world capable of aerial refueling. It has a massive probe that extends from the nose, allowing it to plug into a KC-130 tanker in midair. This gives it theoretically infinite range. As long as the pilots have food and the oil doesn't run out, this bird keeps flying. This capability allows the Marines to project force anywhere in the world without stopping. Now, we have to talk about the dark side of the family. The sibling that works in the shadows. I'm talking about the MH-53 Pave Low. While the Marines were lifting tanks, the U.S. Air Force took the airframe and turned it into a high-tech warrior. They stuffed it with terrain-following radar, forward-looking infrared sensors, and heavy armor. They created a machine designed to fly nap of the earth, meaning extremely low, just above the treetops, in pitch blackness and bad weather. The Pave Low became a pop culture icon when it was featured as the Decepticon Blackout in the first Transformers movie. That casting choice wasn't an accident. The helicopter genuinely looks menacing. But its real-world record is even more impressive. The Pave Low led the way in Desert Storm. Before the first airstrikes began, these helicopters flew into Iraq in total darkness, guiding Apache helicopters to destroy Iraqi radar sites, literally opening the door for the entire war. However, the history of the 53 isn't just about victories. It is also about lessons learned in blood. We have to mention Operation Eagle Claw in 1980, a failed attempt to rescue American hostages in Iran. The mission used CH-53D helicopters. Tragically, due to blinding sandstorms known as haboobs and mechanical failures, the mission was aborted, leading to a catastrophic collision on the ground. It was a disaster, but the lessons learned from those failures directly led to the creation of the U.S. Special Operations Command and the much more advanced technology we see today. One of the most interesting things about the CH-53 is the physical experience of being near one. The rotor wash, the wind generated by those massive blades, is legendary. It creates hurricane-force winds. If it lands in a desert, it creates a brownout so thick that pilots can't see the ground. They have to rely entirely on instruments to set it down without crashing. It takes a special kind of aviator to fly a machine that tries to create its own weather system every time it lands. And believe it or not, despite its size, this bus can dance. There is legendary footage of CH-53s performing barrel rolls and loops. While it is not standard procedure, the airframe is incredibly robust. The titanium rotor head is a marvel of engineering, capable of holding the weight of the entire machine even when inverted, though I don't recommend trying that after lunch. But time comes for us all, even legends. The Super Stallion airframes have been beaten up by decades of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. They are tired. Maintenance crews spend up to 40 hours working on the helicopter for every single hour it spends flying. It leaks oil, it shakes, it is loud. So, Sikorsky went back to the drawing board to create the successor. Enter the CH-53K King Stallion. At first glance, it looks like the old one. But don't be fooled. The King Stallion is a completely new animal. It is the most powerful helicopter ever built by the United States. It uses composite rotor blades that are wider and more efficient. It has a modern glass cockpit and fly-by-wire controls, meaning a computer helps stabilize the flight, reducing the workload on the pilot. The stats are mind-blowing. The King Stallion can lift 36,000 pounds externally. That is triple the lifting capacity of its predecessor in hot and high conditions. It is designed to carry the new Joint Light Tactical Vehicles and heavy pallets of supplies from ships located far out at sea, keeping the fleet safe from shore-based missiles. Of course, this performance comes at a price. Each unit costs more than an F-35 fighter jet. But when you are the only machine capable of doing the job, you can charge whatever you want. So, why do we love the CH-53? It's not the fastest. It's definitely not the quietest. It's a dirty, loud, heavy beast of a machine. But for the soldiers trapped on a mountain, or the civilians needing rescue after a tsunami, that whomp-whomp sound is the most beautiful music in the world. It represents hope. It represents power. From the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of the Middle East, and now into the future with the King Stallion, the CH-53 has earned its place in history. It is a relic of the Cold War that evolved into a titan of the 21st century. It is, quite simply, the king of the skies.